index finally touched the 3,700 mark. Who were the week's top stocks?
If we look at more in the agricultural sector, you notice the likes of Kakuzi had a very high turnover in terms of the price range and stocks traded. You find also there was the likes of Sasini. So more or less, it's interesting that the agricultural sector, reminiscent with the oncoming of the rains, tends to be at the most productive end of the stock exchange this week.
Samia has for the first time in 2 years also made profits. The share price rose today against expected dividend payouts. The company's going to market strategy seems to be finally paying off. What's your outlook for Samia Africa and the counter going forward?
Well, I'd say Samia Africa's expansion program is actually paying dividends, because if you look at it, they've expanded to about 9 countries within Africa. You have Malawi on one end, and you look at the likes of Southern Sudan, and more or less this is actually paying dividends in terms of revenue generation. Then also they've been very stringent on trying to deal with what are called counterfeits flooding the market, in terms of ensuring that there's a stronghold as far as counterfeits are concerned. Then also going forward, you notice that the Samia Business Park is almost up and underway. There had been the initial completion date of December 2009, but owing to one or two things. And then when you look at it with the complete expansion of extra lanes on Mombasa, on the Mombasa Road, which is actually serving their key headquarters, you notice that, and a lot of businesses are moving to that end. So more or less, it's going to be a very profitable company going forward, because its revenue streams will be increased.
Total Kenya has been trading quietly, reduced dividend payments from 2 shillings and 50 cents to 1 shilling. What's your take on how this will impact its performance on the stock market going forward, keeping in mind the 31% drop in profits that we saw earlier today?
Well, we'll have to understand that today's stock investor is very savvy and is very knowledgeable. So more or less, most people would vote by their feet. There are those who will end up selling off at the market, because really there's not much to gain from the point of dividend and also from the point of view of the stock value. So you'd find that there are those shareholders who would feel that it's about time I let go of my holding in Total Kenya for more profitable stock. For example, you might find there would be a rally towards Kenol Kobil on one end, or one of the others. You find the Barclays, the Standard Chartered, which posted impressive profits, and its dividend payout is also going to be very impressive. So you'd find a lot of investors today are actually adept as to what is happening in the stock market and will actually make their decisions likewise.
Still sticking with the energy sector, Kenol Kobil is back on the news again. We expect to have their results anytime from next week. It is the highest dividend payer on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. What are your expectations for their results, and what's your outlook for Kenol Kobil going forward?
Well, I'd say it's positive for Kenol Kobil. One, the expansion strategy. You notice there's been a lot. There's Kenol Kobil, there's Ethiopia, there was a Rwanda branch, and further down south. And also there are strategy in terms of business. If you look at the model that they run their business with, it's proven to be profitable in the long run. Hence also the dividend payout continuously over a given period of time. Going forward, we'd look at it with the likes of now Total edging out, and with the stories of maybe Kenya Shell eventually leaving the market, you'd find that the market players will be reduced. Hence, it will be a boon for some with the likes of Kenol Kobil.
Expectations for next week, the index finally touched the 3,700 mark, highly unexpected for March, keeping in mind the market conditions and the results we've been seeing. As we go into next week, what are some of the top stocks that you'll be looking at?
I'd say I'd still put my eye out on some in the alternative investment market. Some of the recommendations we give at the company Waiyaki and Associates, you find eGuards is a stock that has not been, actually people have not taken notice of it, but it is one of the top movers. Well, Sasini, I wonder in terms of how long will it sustain that run, in terms of, because we've seen for the longest time historically these stocks do not outlive. Then I look at more or less Cooperative Bank has been a stock that has actually been moving up impressively. And last but not least, I'd say we don't forget one of the financials. You look at Standard Chartered, it's an impressive stock, it's been profitable, and they have a very good model in terms of sticking to traditional banking as it is, and it's paying dividends to them. So that's my recommendation for next week.
How about housing finance? We saw their profits up over 70%. The construction sector seems to be booming within the East African region.
True.
Is that a counter that you'll be looking at?
Well, I'd have to look at it in terms of its actually ability to sustain that growth. Because as much as the construction industry is booming, you notice that it's also pegged upon with the ability to borrow. the market has to be facilitative enough for them to receive funds, sufficient funds to construct. So more or less, it's not per se that are aggressive in terms of its growth.
Yeah. Financial stocks, are they beginning to lose their attractiveness now that the results season is out of the way?
I would say they don't cease to lose that. For a savvy investor and one who understands the stock market, you never let go of the financial stocks. They never let you down. They'll always pull through, whether or not they post significant profits or not, but they tend to be very, very consistent in terms of their return on investment.